Hey folks, sorry about the lighting. I'm in my basement. My shop is currently being occupied by a big walnut dining table build that I'll be posting shortly. So I'm down here. I'm doing a river table. The seller, the guy that sells a lot of my furniture, he got a client in through his shop that wanted a river table, so I gave in and said I would make one. But unfortunately, that didn't turn out very well. So this is going to be a short video. Now, I chose this angle because I don't think you can see the exact defect that happened, but it will be revealed shortly. So enjoy the video. Okay, I'm starting here by measuring close to the center of the slab. I think this one was slightly offset. And then I'm just gonna cut the slab in half with the track saw. Now my track doesn't quite make the whole slab, and I do have a second track and the joiner kit, but then it would be 50 inches longer than the slab. It'd be overhanging both sides by quite a bit. So I just decided it was easier to clamp it on one side, make the cut, slide the track, clamp the other side, and then make the cut. Also, this track, oh, sorry, not the track, this slab, I think was about 2 and almost a quarter or 3/8 of an inch thick, and my track saw only cuts 2 and an eighth. So it didn't cut all the way through the slab. And actually, I think I did 2 passes anyway. I think I did a pass at 1 inch, and then I did another pass at the full depth of 2 and an eighth, just because the maple was it was giving the saw a hard time. So I just made it easier by doing 2 passes. And then you'll see I finished the cut with a Japanese pull saw. I was thinking of getting the jigsaw out, but the Japanese pull saw worked fine. So you can see I slid the track up now, and I clamped it to the other side and to complete the cut. And then again, 2 passes because the saw didn't go all the way through. Okay, so this was a bit sketchy, but I really couldn't think of a better way to, or an easier way to cut through the slab. It was too far over to reach from the sides. I just got on top. And I also had you can see there's some sticks under it there, some maple sticks that I had to slide under the table just to support it because of the overhang was so much off of the track saw table. Now that I have it split, I'm just leveling it. The slab had a bit of a twist in it, so I had to surface it before I did the epoxy pour. Otherwise, there would have been a lot of epoxy going under the table. So I just have a 2-inch flattening bit in my router and my router sled, and it takes a bit of time, but it works pretty well and makes a mess, big mess. Now the last thing to do before going into forms is the nylon wire wheel on the live edges, just to clean them up, get all the dirt off, get all the debris off, so the epoxy has some good adhesion to the live edge of the table. Another messy job, but one that needs to be done before you can pour your epoxy. Now also, I didn't show the building of the forms just because who wants to see that? And here we go. Here's the first of 3 pours that I needed to do to fill this river. And I believe this is where all my issues began. So pour number 1, and I'm just using a brush here just to get in. There's some crevices in that live edge, like under it a little bit, and I just wanted to brush the epoxy in there to reduce bubbles. So pour number 2. So pour number 2 actually got me level with the top of the table. But I did need to make a 3rd pour, because what happened is, it goes under the table a little bit, even though it's clamped down, and then it goes around the perimeter of the edges. So in total, it needed about 7 gallons of epoxy. And I do a case at a time, 3 gallons at a time, so 3, and then 1. Now just pop on the bubbles. And now we're gonna fill some of the larger knots. So I'm just using, like a 50 millimeter syringe here. And this table had a bit of knot holes. And then also there was some wormholes, a lot of them towards the one end. So I used the syringe just to fill those while I was at it. Chances are that I'll have to do another resurfacing after the slab is fully cured. It usually just shrinks a hair and I have to resurface the top of the table again. So this is it. These are the beauty shots here while it's drying, and then the nightmare begins. Okay, so this is where we're at. I poured this table about 2 days ago, about 10:30, 11 in the morning, and I came down and I checked on it 4 or 5 hours later, and I started seeing like these wavy sort of bubbles developing in the epoxy, and I'll put that up on the screen somewhere. And when I was looking more closely at it, I could feel the heat coming off the epoxy, and I've never had that happen before, especially within 4 or 5 hours. I've poured some of these tables in my garage in summer, and I never had issues with it overheating. So I saw that happening, and I got on the phone with my seller because this table is actually going to a client of his. The client came through his shop, and that's who I'm building it for. And I called him and I told him, listen, something's wrong with the epoxy pour. It's overheating, it's bubbling. And then when I was on the phone with him, this happened. So as I was talking to him, I could see a line develop in the pour, and it started opening up and getting bigger and getting bigger. And I already had fans on it at this point. I mean, it was cooking. I didn't have my temp gun down here, but it was pretty warm. And this is my basement. It's only 68 degrees down here. It was a very strange phenomenon. Now, this is super clear epoxy, and I did call Super Clear this morning, and I told them, I did a 2-inch pour. I've done many of these before, although most of my pours are in the 5-gallon range, and this was 7. And I told them what I did is I mixed. Super Clear comes in, the deep pour comes in a case of 3 gallons. It's 2 parts of A and 1 part B. And I mixed 1 case at a time, so 3 gallons at a time. I did the pour. I waited 15-20 minutes just to make sure I had no leaks in my forms. And then I mixed up the second batch. I poured that 3 gallons in, so it was up to 6 gallons. And that filled it to the top. But then what happened is it started going under the table a little bit, even though it's clamped down and everything, still a little bit goes under the table. It works its way into these cracks, these spaces around the perimeter. So this came down a little bit. So I mixed 1 more gallon up, and this is probably about an hour later. And I poured that gallon. And what the rep from Super Clear said was that the first pour that I had poured about an hour ago now probably started kicking off the curing process, and that builds heat, and that heat could have prematurely kicked off the curing process on the other 2 pours on top of it. And it just, I guess the situation got exacerbated, and it overheated, and this is what happened. So I wasn't sure what I was going to do with this. My sales guy called the client, and she actually wants to see what it looks like filling this, mixing up the same color again and filling this. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to grind this back a bit so that's not these kind of crisp lines. And I'm going to make another mix and pour these in there and just see what it looks like, see if it's acceptable to her or not. If it's not acceptable, then I'm probably going to take a jigsaw and follow the live edge around and cut this out on both sides. And then I'll probably take some nylon wire wheels and clean the live edge up, and then probably pour this all over again in just black. I'm just going to do a black river. I think the black will look good with the maple here. Now, I did see some other videos where people take the epoxy and they crush it up into like cubes or rocks, and then they put that back in, and then they pour like a clear or like a smoky color over it. Now that's kind of neat. It's a little trendy, but I don't know. Those are my two options now. So if anybody's had any experience with epoxy overheating, let me know. Let me know what you think the cause was. The other thing they said it could have been too is the mica tint that I used. I did use a lot of mica tint because she didn't want it to be very transparent. So there is a lot of mica flake in here. So the guy from Super Clear did say it could be that as well. And their helpline is actually very helpful. Very nice people. They're in, I think it's St. Petersburg, Florida. But yeah, they answered the phone right away, and they were pretty helpful with helping me troubleshoot what happened. But again, if anybody has any experience with this, let me know. And then if you have any ideas on what to do with this if the client doesn't like the fill. I mean, I can't imagine it's going to look that good, but you never know. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.